They're not the pale, sparkling creatures you've seen in Hollywood. No, the higher vampires from ancient lore were far more terrifying. These were beings of immense power, shrouded in mystery, feared by kings, and even rumored to have shaped the fate of entire civilizations. But who, or what, were they really? And is it possible that traces of their existence remain hidden in our world today? Stick around, because what you're about to hear might change the way you think about history and humanity itself. For centuries, the legend of the vampire has captured our imagination, but beneath the tales of caped figures and wooden stakes lies a much older, much darker story. Higher vampires, as they're sometimes called, were said to be something beyond human. Ancient beings with intelligence, power, and an unsettling hunger that set them apart from the creatures of myth we're familiar with. They were not just predators of the night. They were rulers, manipulators, and perhaps even gods in the eyes of some ancient cultures. In this video, we're diving deep into the chilling history of higher vampires, what made them so feared, the theories surrounding their existence, and why some believe they were more than just a figment of human imagination. But be warned, the truth, or even the possibility of it, might be more unsettling than you think. When you think of vampires, what comes to mind? Pale skin, blood drinking, maybe an aversion to sunlight. That's the sanitized version of a much older, much more complex tale. Higher vampires, as described in folklore and esoteric texts, were far removed from the romanticized creatures we see today. They weren't just predators. They were beings of extraordinary intelligence, capable of blending seamlessly into human society, sometimes even ruling it. But how did these legends come about? Were they merely the products of overactive imaginations, or do they hint at something more tangible, something humanity has tried to bury or forget? Scholars and storytellers alike have struggled to explain the eerie similarities in vampire lore across cultures and time periods. Could there have been a kernel of truth at the heart of these chilling tales? Let's start by peeling back the layers of myth to uncover the disturbing origins of higher vampires. Higher vampires weren't the hollow-eyed, corpse-like creatures described in much of Eastern European folklore. They were said to be indistinguishable from humans, at least at first glance. Historical accounts and esoteric texts describe them as tall, eerily graceful beings with unnaturally symmetrical features. Their eyes, however, were said to betray them, often described as too bright, too sharp, and capable of holding a piercing gaze that could leave even the bravest soul paralyzed with fear. Their strength and speed were said to be beyond human comprehension. Some accounts claim they could move faster than the human eye could follow, while others speak of their incredible ability to heal from wounds that would kill an ordinary man. But perhaps their most terrifying feature was their intelligence. Unlike the mindless bloodsuckers of common folklore, higher vampires were calculated and strategic, often manipulating entire communities or even nations for their own gain. Legends of higher vampires appear across various cultures, often under different names. In medieval Europe, the aristocracy was sometimes whispered to have connections to vampiric beings. The 15th century figure Vlad the Impaler, often linked to the vampire legend, is a well-known example. But some esoteric researchers suggest that higher vampires existed long before figures like Vlad, possibly influencing the power structures of ancient civilizations. In Mesopotamian lore, the Akimu were spirits or beings that fed on the living, draining their vitality in ways eerily similar to descriptions of vampires. Meanwhile, ancient Indian texts speak of the Vitala, ghostly creatures that inhabited corpses but retained an uncanny intelligence. Could these beings have been early interpretations of what we now call higher vampires? Even more intriguing are the rumors surrounding secret societies and royal bloodlines. Some historians believe that the legends of vampires among European nobility weren't merely metaphors for greed or corruption, but were rooted in genuine fear of supernatural entities blending into the upper echelons of society. One of the most compelling theories about higher vampires is that they were not supernatural at all, but a separate species, one that evolved alongside humans, perhaps even preying on us as their primary food source. This theory could explain why vampire myths are so widespread, appearing in nearly every culture from ancient China to Africa to the Americas. Others suggest a more otherworldly origin. Esoteric texts from the Middle Ages speak of beings who were neither human nor animal, sometimes described as fallen angels or entities from another plane of existence. Could higher vampires have been remnants of something far older than humanity itself? Some modern theorists even speculate that they might have been extraterrestrial in origin, with their advanced abilities and intelligence explained by a superior, non-human biology. And then there's the idea that higher vampires might still exist, hidden in plain sight. Proponents of this theory point to the mysterious disappearances, unexplained deaths, and the uncanny influence of certain individuals throughout history as potential evidence. Here's where things get even darker. What if the legends of higher vampires weren't warnings from our ancestors, but records, descriptions of beings that truly existed? And if they existed once, what's to say they don't still exist today? Think about it. In a world where power and influence are often concentrated in the hands of the few, wouldn't beings with intelligence and charisma far beyond that of humans be perfectly suited to thrive? What if some of history's most enigmatic figures weren't just brilliant or charismatic, but were something else entirely? Consider the uncanny similarities between the descriptions of higher vampires and the modern-day concept of energy vampires. Individuals who seem to drain others emotionally or mentally. Could this be a diluted remnant of the truth? Higher vampires occupy a unique place in our collective imagination, somewhere between legend and possibility. Whether they were ancient rulers, a separate species, or something even more unfathomable, their presence in global folklore suggests that humanity has long been haunted by the idea of beings who are both like us and utterly unlike us. Perhaps the true horror isn't in the possibility that they existed, but in the possibility that they still do. Subscribe, and let's uncover more of the mysteries lurking in the shadows of history.